Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Wideness of the Sea by Katie Curtis. Narrated by Amy Landon. On the Sea by John Keats. It keeps eternal whisperings around desolate shores, and with its mighty swell gluts twice 10,000 caverns, till the spell of Hecate leaves them their old shadowy sound. Often 'tis in such gentle temper found, that scarcely will the very smallest shell be moved for days from where it sometime fell, when last the winds of heaven were unbound. O ye, who have your eyeballs vexed and tired, feast them upon the wideness of the sea. O ye, whose ears are dimmed with uproar rude, or fed too much with cloying melody, sit ye near some old cavern's mouth and brood, until ye start, as if the sea nymphs choired. Beauty is ever to the lonely mind a shadow fleeting. She is never plain. She is a visitor who leaves behind the gift of grief, the souvenir of pain. Christopher Morley. Chapter 1. Anna had just finished the 10th grade, the summer she first saw a blue lobster. Her mother strolled out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, and walked over to where Anna was sitting in a crab-apple tree with her sister Marie, who was back home in New Harbor, Maine, from college for summer break. "They found a blue lobster down at the harbor," she called. A moment later, Anna and Marie were riding their bikes the 1.5 miles to the harbor co-op, where the lobster boats unloaded their daily catch. The morning summer sun made the water so bright you could hardly see past the harbor bell, the horizon line a blinding flash of white. She squinted her eyes as she eased her bike down in the parking lot and ran toward the wall of traps that were lined up along the edge of the dock. There was a crowd already gathered. The lobsterman who had caught the rare lobster held it in a white plastic bucket, allowing all the people, kids mostly idle in summer break, to see the azure blue creature up close. Anna pushed aside shoulders and elbows and knees until she stood behind a boy she didn't know, hunched over the bucket. She stood on her tiptoes over his shoulder, balancing her palms on his back, straining to catch a view. When some kids pushed her from behind, she was thrust into him until he fell over, catching himself on the sides of the bucket. "Hey, watch it," he said, turning toward her. His eyes met hers, and a flash of recognition followed. He was friends with her brother, 2 years older than her. He stared back at her, the length of his gaze starting to make her feel uncomfortable, like she had vertigo or had been staring at the sun too long. She tried to say, "Sorry," but no words could come out of her mouth. The strands of her dark hair that stuck to beads of sweat on her forehead blocked her vision, and she pushed them out of her eyes. "Here, do you want to take a look?" he asked, moving to the side. She stepped forward because she didn't know what else to do. She peered down and saw the blue lobster, looking like a glass version of itself, with lighter blue around the claws and a more concentrated pigment in its body, sitting in a few inches of water. She knew from living in a harbor town how rare this was. Only 1 in 2 million lobsters were born with this genetic anomaly. But the lobster also triggered something else in her. She knew that color. "Ultramarine," she said. "Huh?" said the boy whose name she didn't know, but whose eyes she did. "The color of blue, of the lobster," she stammered. "It is just like the paint color named ultramarine. I use it, my mom uses it all the time." She closed her eyes and could picture a painting of the lobster in her mind. She would mix in white to get the color of the claws, some black to get the shading around the legs. She was aware of the boy standing, staring at her as she closed her eyes. She opened them and looked across the bucket at him. Just then, other viewers jostled her from her spot and swallowed her up. She strained to see the boy again, but he was gone. That afternoon, she went into the barn and set to work, putting the image in her head on a canvas. Her mother decided to join her and paint a blue lobster as well. As she worked, she kept thinking about those eyes. They were almost the same color blue. Andrew's eyes. She had asked her brother what his name was. Anna Goodrich was pulled out of her memory by the voice of the man in front of her. He was tall, heavy-set, and wore an expensive-looking trench coat. He stood in the gallery where Anna worked in Midtown, New York City, on a rainy Friday afternoon in April, weighing his decision between two paintings. One was an oil painting of a river in upstate New York. The other was a painting of a lobster boat, the water a shade of ultramarine that looked electric, like a blue lobster, set off by the red and white of the boat. "I think I just feel this one more," he said, gesturing to the lobster boat painting. "And I have loved the other works by this artist," he added. "I think it is a better investment overall." She knew he loved the painting. Talking about the investment value was like giving the mind permission to fall in love, because it made sense. She had seen it happen before, and it was one of the reasons she loved working in the gallery when she wasn't painting. She would have told the man she was the artist if she wasn't so distracted by her daydream. "I'll take it," he said. "Can you have it delivered to my wife on 3rd Avenue? He asked as he wrote down the address. "Of course," Anna said. "My pleasure." "Be careful with ultramarine. It dominates so easily. It must be balanced by the other elements," her mother had said when she painted the blue lobster painting with Anna. By the time she had painted this picture of the boat, Anna had mastered this lesson. Later that afternoon, after she had closed the gallery, the spring air was so fresh and fragrant it beckoned her to walk home instead of taking the subway. The rain had given way to a warm sun that felt almost tropical to the New Yorkers walking around in their boots and duffel coats. Everything with roots started exploding. You could almost see leaves and blossoms unfurl before your eyes. The treetops were a lacy green against the blue sky, and the pink blossoms on the redwood trees looked like cotton candy. A group of teenagers walked past Anna, with all their sweaters and long-sleeve shirts tied around their waists, punched drunk on shedding their layers. Rows of giggling preschoolers passed holding hands, like a chain of cut-out paper dolls. Anna skipped up the steps of her building and made her way upstairs to the apartment she shared with her best friend, Georgia, a successful freelance photographer. The old floorboards creaked as she walked into her apartment, and as she set down her purse and coat, she saw that Georgia had dropped a stack of mail on the coffee table. It had been 8 years since Anna had answered her roommate ad when she moved to New York, and in that time she had never been able to put it in the basket Anna had set out in the kitchen specifically for mail. What she lacked in organization, though, she more than made up for in loyalty and spontaneous fun, which Anna considered a fair trade. She set the mail in the basket, then made her way to her closet to get dressed for the rooftop party they were all invited to that evening. As she looked through her closet to pick out something to wear, the end-of-the-week fatigue crept over her, and she almost considered begging off the plans. She looked at the canvas in the corner of her room, an acrylic painting she was working on of a couple at a table outside at a restaurant, and thought about how nice it would be to put on her most comfortable clothes, have a glass of wine, and work on it. But she had barely seen her boyfriend Raphael at all that week, and he worked with the guys throwing the party. Georgia was also coming with her boyfriend Jake, so there was no way she could back out. Anna pulled out a black cowl-neck dress and resigned herself to a Friday night out. A few hours later, Anna stood with her long arm raised, black heels in an oily puddle, trying to hail a cab on 2nd Ave. As soon as she found one, she eased into the black pleather, staring out the window and letting the magic of the city lights lull her. As the cab stopped at a red light, she suddenly thought back to her daydream about the blue lobster. She closed her eyes and could picture painting with her mother in the barn, and could practically smell the mildew and cedar from the old abandoned stalls, mingling with the smell of the paints. She loved having memories of painting with her mom, of learning from her. As she pressed her back into the seat, letting it hold up her fatigue, she held the whole lovely memory for a moment. When her phone rang, it popped like a bubble. It was Miranda, one of her favorite students at the Boys and Girls Club, where she taught on Tuesday afternoons. "Hey, Anna, are we still on for the Met tomorrow?" "You bet. 10:30 sound okay?" "Sure, I'll meet you by the front desk. Also, I wanted to ask you a favor. Could you write my recommendation for the new school?" "Yes, of course!" Anna practically squealed. She had been hoping Miranda could talk her mother into letting her apply. A single mother, Maria Rivero, was raising Miranda, who was 14, and her sister Gabriella, who was 12, alone on a hotel housekeeper's salary after their father died shortly after they had immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico when the girls were little. Miranda had been taking classes with Anna since she was in 3rd grade and was a gifted artist. Anna tried to encourage her, and unofficially became a big sister to her. She loved her round face, infectious smile, and shining dark eyes, and her big heart was always enthusiastic about something, whether it was a new paintbrush or discovering a new artist. "Anna, have you ever seen a Caravaggio? He is amazing!" she would exclaim, tossing her long dark hair over her shoulder. The next week, she would greet Anna with her eyes wide. "Did you know that Frida Kahlo once lived in New York?" She gushed as she set up her paint and canvas for the lesson. Last month, Anna had gone to Miranda's apartment in the Bronx, which was small and clean, with plastic flowers on the kitchen table. Though the building had broken windows and the sound of shouting from various directions made Anna feel uneasy. She sat down with her mom, Maria, to talk about the new school, an art high school for gifted students near Central Park and Anna's gallery. Her mom wasn't excited about the studio hours the students were expected to put in on nights and weekends. She was eager for her to pick up some shifts doing laundry at the hotel once she was in high school. "I don't see how art fairs and rich friends are going to help Miranda get a good job," she had said, her hair combed back into a ponytail, wearing the same red zip-up hoodie that she had on every time Anna had met her. She was petite and curvy, and had a pretty face even without makeup. "I want her to get a good education, but the kind that gets you into a good college, not the kind that distracts you and helps you sell paintings in Central Park," her mother had said, her expression firm, her hand gently sliding a medallion of Our Lady of Guadalupe back and forth on a chain around her neck. "She is so talented, though. This will get her into a good school, I promise," Anna pleaded. "Let me think about it," Maria had said. "How did you convince her?" Anna asked Miranda. "I begged her, and I promised her I would clean apartments with my aunt all summer and save for the school year." "I'm so glad, Miranda. Let's talk about the essay tomorrow at lunch, after the Met, okay?" "Okay, Anna. Thank you." Her enthusiasm contagious. Anna smiled as she hung up her phone, and seconds later it buzzed again. She answered to the velvety sound of Raphael's voice. "Hey, hon, where are you?" he asked. "I just got here." "I'm 3 blocks away. Be there in a minute. By the way, I'm meeting Miranda at the Met tomorrow morning, so if you want to do brunch, we have to go early. Did you still want to go with Georgia and everyone to dinner tomorrow night?" "As long as I get to see you at all of it, it sounds good to me. And I'm glad you're going to see Miranda. You're pretty great with her, you know," he said, the sound of jazz music from the party seeping through the phone. "She's a great girl. It's easy," Anna said. Okay, I'm jumping out now. Love you. Okay, see you in a second. Love you too, said Raphael. Anna paid for the cab and threw her phone in her purse and headed into the building. She left it there, stashed next to the toaster in the minimalist white kitchen, while she mingled with Raphael and friends on the gorgeous rooftop, the jazz somehow a perfect complement to the incredible views of the city. She always had fun with Raphael at parties. He made everyone laugh, his charm and his ability to make people feel good on full display. It wasn't until she saw the line for the bathroom and grabbed her phone for a distraction while she waited that she saw the messages. 3 from her sister Marie, and 1 from her aunt. She set down her sweaty glass of Sauvignon Blanc in an empty space of the bookshelf and went back outside to call her sister. The air was pleasantly cool, and lights on the topiaries mingled with the lights of the skyline as she waited for her sister to answer. She glanced over at Raphael on the couch, laughing with friends, his brown hair slightly overgrown, making him look like a teenager. She wondered where her best friend Georgia was. She should have been here by now. "Hello?" her sister answered in a muffled voice. "Marie, what's going on? I have 3 messages from you," Anna asked. "It's Uncle Charlie," said Marie. Her voice faltered and sounded like she had swallowed syrup. "He had a heart attack, Anna. He didn't make it." The news hit hard, then slowly spread through her nervous system. The lights from the trees on the patio and the skyline blurred, and she felt dizzy. She focused on the window in the building across the street, where an Indian couple stood in their kitchen making dinner, the woman's red sari standing out among a sea of gray brick. Oh, God. She let out the breath she had been holding. Oh, my God. How's Aunt Catherine? How's Dad? She thought of her aunt, Uncle Charlie's devoted sister, and her father, and how the 3 of them were always so close, their own unit with their own understanding of each other, how she had sensed this even when she was little. She cupped her forehead in her hand, and then started to massage the muscles there. Aunt Catherine's in shock. Dad's broken up, but still, Dad. Anna watched the Indian couple, the woman gesturing at the stove as her much taller husband stirred what was in the pan. She seemed annoyed at whatever he had done to the dish. Anna had the sudden urge to check her phone for Uncle Charlie's number, to call him up and hear his voice, just to prove that her sister's words couldn't possibly be true. Should I come up there tonight, or wait a few days? Do you know when they're going to have the funeral yet? Anna's mind welcomed the switch from an unpleasant reality to simple, practical logistics. She started to think about her schedule, what she would have to cancel and switch around to make the trip. She worked at the Genevieve Keller Gallery in Midtown, just a few blocks from where they were tonight, and hoped that her boss would cover for her. She would have to cancel her plans with Raphael next week, dinner with friends and an art show. She looked over at him, his arm across the back of the couch, his other hand holding a scotch, his face lit up from laughing. The discordant feelings of joy at seeing him and the devastating sadness seemed to crash together in her head, and it started pounding. Aunt Catherine already talked to the priest at St. Pat's. Monday or Tuesday would be best, considering the weekend mass schedule. Anna could hear her sister gently shooing away her 2.5-year-old. Anna adored her nephew Henry and smiled at the thought of him. Marie succeeded in bribing him with a lollipop. "Think you'll bring Raphael?" she asked. "Not sure yet. I'll talk it over with him. He's with some friends at the moment, so I'll wait till we head home. I'll call tomorrow, let you know our plans." "Hey, Marie, where'd it happen? The heart attack, I mean?" Anna suddenly thought to ask. "You know where they unload the lobster traps at the co-op? He was out there watching the boats come in." Anna knew that spot. It was right where they had seen the blue lobster. How strange that she should think of that memory today. Georgia came rushing up to Anna just as she put her phone down. Her boyfriend Jake headed over to where Raphael sat. "You are not going to believe what is happening over there at that table," she said, kissing Anna's cheeks. "Cronuts! Cronuts are happening!" Georgia gushed. Anna sat stone-faced, not saying anything. "What's wrong with you? I say cronuts and you say nothing. Did someone die or something?" "Oh my gosh. Someone did, didn't they?" Anna nodded, her chest and her throat tight. Finally, she pointed to the bathroom, which mercifully had no line. She was so glad her friend was there in the safety of the tiny, warm bathroom. "My uncle died. My sweet, sweet uncle. He was 3 years younger than my dad. He lived a mile down the road from us my whole life." Saying it out loud helped make it real. Her uncle had died. Vibrant, hilarious, bigger-than-life Uncle Charlie was gone. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry." She hugged her friend, and suddenly the balloon in Anna's chest burst, and tears started to overflow. Georgia pulled out a handful of tissues and put them up next to her cheeks, catching them as they fell. A little later, after waving goodbye to everyone, Anna pulled her camel coat tighter around herself to ward off the spring evening, and took hold of Raphael's arm as they walked to find a cab. His wide muscles felt nice under his white shirt, no doubt the same one he wore to work as a trader earlier that day, since it was Friday and they always went straight out for drinks after work. She waited until they were riding in the cab, the lights of the city hitting Raphael's face, illuminating his impossibly long eyelashes, to tell him. "My sister called while we were there. My Uncle Charlie passed away," Anna said. Her mind went back to his cozy white cottage on the ocean, where she had spent so much time growing up. For some reason, she thought of the funny-shaped ice cubes his ancient freezer made that he always put in her soda. She could hear his strong voice laughing in her ear. She could see his brown eyes, so like her father's, always asking questions, and she could see the cigar in his hand that was practically an appendage. She loved the smell of his cigar. Her chest twisted as she thought of him, her mind trying to evade the painful information that he was gone. "Was he the one we stayed with a few summers ago?" Raphael asked. "The one with the house on the harbor?" His very slight Argentinian accent came out sometimes after a few drinks. He reached out his hand to embrace hers, his nails too short from chewing on them, his skin perpetually tan. Anna thought back. They had been dating for almost 4 years, so it would be when they had just started dating that she had brought him home. The idea of staying with her father was out, since at that time she and her dad had barely spoken in almost 3 years, so they stayed with Uncle Charlie. Anna put her hand in his. "Yeah," she said. She stared at Uncle Charlie's number on her phone. She longed to call him, to hear his voice again on the other line. "That's the one." "I'm sorry, hon. He was an amazing guy, and one hell of a poker player." Anna smiled at the memory of Raphael losing to her uncle that weekend. Nothing won respect for Raphael faster than bragging rights. "He was an amazing guy," she said, nodding, the city lights blurred by her tears. Chapter 2. "Raphael's not coming," Anna said to her sister the next morning. "He can't leave work at the moment. Something to do with China and the U.S. Treasuries. Not sure what it's all about, but he can't get away. I'm flying up tonight. Can I stay with you?" She tossed some socks and sweaters into a red suitcase as she spoke. She hoped her sister didn't catch the strain in her voice, giving away the disappointment she felt that Raphael couldn't come. "I'll clean up the spare bedroom," Marie said. "But what about staying with Dad?" Anna's brain cramped at the thought of entering her father's house, bags hanging at her side. "Thanks, I'll take the spare room. Don't worry about the mess," Anna said. She heard Marie's muffled voice over the phone say to Henry, "No, honey, no cookies before breakfast, I said." Despite the cloud of grief she was in, she was excited to see her nephew. "So I'm flying into Portland at 6:45. Sorry, I know that's right in the middle of dinner. But you'll be there, right?" "I'll be there. Mike is home tonight, and actually it will be nice to process everything," Marie said. "It is so hard to remember Uncle Charlie just died while I'm chasing after Henry. Want to grab dinner in Portland on the way back?" she asked. The artsy port town was about an hour and a half south of her sister's house in Damariscotta, and Anna welcomed the idea of a night with her sister in such a cozy city. "Sounds perfect," Anna said as she threw her makeup bag into her luggage. "See you soon." Anna quickly called Genevieve's cell. Her boss picked up right away. "Why aren't you sleeping in like all the other 20-somethings in this city?" she said with her typical sarcasm. Anna had learned long ago that this was just a cover for her vulnerable core. She also knew that Genevieve was already dressed, had walked her corgi, and was seated at the cafe right across from her apartment like she was every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. "Hey, Genevieve, I'm actually heading to Maine for a funeral. My uncle just passed away suddenly. I'm not sure when I'll be back, probably next week." Anna stood staring at her reflection in the window of her living room, her long, dark, wet hair and white robe making her look even younger than her 28 years. "Oh, darling, I'm sorry to hear that. Take whatever time you need, of course. Sarah and I can fill in at the gallery on your days. Though I am dying to see what you are working on right now." Anna glanced over at the large canvas in her living room. She liked the start of it. The older couple sat leaning into each other in a sweet way at the table outside a restaurant. Her brushstrokes, bold through the scene, came off as soft, but she was stuck on the woman's face. "It can wait, of course. Call me as soon as you know when you're coming back. Big hugs, dear," Genevieve said. Anna knew she could count on Genevieve to be supportive. She was the closest thing Anna had to family in the city, beside Raphael and Georgia. Though she was fiercely competitive and had a sophisticated, cynical New Yorker attitude, she was quite maternal to Anna. They were lucky to have found each other years ago. She put the phone down and tossed it into her bag with its charger. She glanced at the painting. It could wait. The city would barely notice she was gone. Except for Miranda, she quickly remembered. She pulled out her phone to text her. "Sorry, Em, I have to go up to Maine for a funeral. My uncle just passed away suddenly." In seconds, 3 little dots appeared. "Oh no, Anna. So sorry to hear it. My mom and I will pray for your family." "Thanks, love. We'll get in touch when I am back in town and we'll reschedule, okay? And I will work on your essay while I'm in Maine, I promise." "Okay, thank you." Anna laughed at the string of hearts and smiles the young girl sent back as a reply. Anna also realized she should give Georgia a call. She had to leave early this morning for a photography job. "Hey, Georgia, it's me. Just wanted to let you know I'm headed to Maine for the funeral and everything, and I am probably going to stay with my family for a little while," she said. "Can you pile up my mail on my dresser?" "Thanks, Peaches. Give me a call when you can." Anna shook the towel through her wet hair and stared at the painting. She walked over and realized exactly what the woman should look like. She picked up a brush and suddenly filled in her face. The blush in her cheeks a cheerful red that matched the tulips in the window box behind her. She wasn't finished, but it was an improvement. A few hours later, she sat at the airport with Raphael, the table littered with coffee stirs and the detritus of their lunch. She was glad he came to see her off, a last deposit of moral support before the storm. "I wish you could come with me," she said. "I wish I could too. It's just the hardest time to get away. I'll call you every day, I promise. Please try to take this time for you and your family. You'll be back before you know it," he said, his eyes smiling, his hands reassuring her. "I know. It's just you're such a great distraction around my dad. Without you there, I might actually have to talk to him. Look, has Uncle
Sample complete. Ready to continue?